So hey guys, welcome once again to my channel. It's conceptual. So today we're gonna talk about the NRTIs, or also known as nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Okay. So what are these? So these are basically the drugs used for the heart therapy, or also known as highly active antiretroviral therapy. Okay. So it is a combination of what is heart. So it is basically a combination of medications used in treatment of AIDS. Okay, so AIDS is caused by the RNA containing retrovirus, and why it's called retrovirus, I told you in previous video, because of the enzyme reverse transcriptase. Okay, so what does reverse transcriptase do? It converts the RNA to the DNA. Okay, or we can say transcribe proviral DNA from RNA. Okay, so there are basically two classes, that is nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors and non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. But in this video we're just gonna talk about the NRTIs, or also known as the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. Okay, so what it does that it resembles nucleosides, and they get phosphorylated and give rise to the nucleotides. And nucleotides, as we know that it is the building blocks for the DNA and RNA, and the virus transcribes the proviral DNA from the RNA. So once while the transcription, if we insert the analogs of the NRTIs in between the proviral forming DNA, then the DNA formation can be stopped. Okay, so basically हम क्या कर रहे हैं कि we are just altering the nucleotides with the NRTIs and stopping the DNA replication, and hence it will stop the growth of the virus. So ultimatum हमको तो virus का growth ही रोकना, so we are doing by the use of the NRTI. ओके, सो बेसिकली NRTI से पहले न्यूक्लियोसाइड का मतलब क्या होता है? सो न्यूक्लियोसाइड्स क्या होता है? दैट इज द नाइट्रोजन बेसेस प्लस phosphorylation give rise to the nucleoside, and nucleoside plus phosphorylation gives rise to the nucleotide. Okay, so basically we have learned this in our higher secondary schools. Okay, so I hope आपको ये समझ में आ रहा होगा. Okay, so now we'll just study that how HIV affects the cells, and then we will later go on to the mechanism of these drugs. Okay, so HIV is single stranded positive sense enveloped RNA retrovirus. Okay, so मैंने आपको समझा दिया कि रेट्रोवायरस क्यों बोलते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ द एंजाइम रिवर्स ट्रांसक्रिप्टेज. ओके, एंड बेसिकली दे अटैक द इम्यूनिटी, द HIV virus via mainly attached to the cells that have the CD4 receptors. Okay, so CD4 receptor कहाँ का होता है? That is dendritic cells, the CD4 T helper cells and the macrophages. Okay, and this CD4 receptors has the work that it helps to communicate with the other immune cells. Okay, so it sends the signals via ki something abnormal is happening in the body, so gather around to kill it or effective mechanism against it. Okay, so now how the virus incorporates in the cell. Once this comes here and attached via the GP120 receptor and gets control over the host cell and enters. Okay, and once it enters, it releases the nucleocapsid and the reverse transcriptase enzyme. So nucleocapsid consists of the single stranded RNA, reverse transcriptase and the integrase. Okay, so nucleocapsid protein contains these three parts. Okay, so the reverse transcriptase transcribe the complementary double stranded proviral DNA. Okay, and what it does that it uses the nucleotides of the cytoplasm of the host cell to form the DNA from the RNA, transcribed RNA. Via the reverse transcriptase, it uses the nucleotides of the host to make its own proviral DNA, and then via the help of the integrase enzyme, it incorporates into the host cells and take over the whole mechanism. So basically हो क्या रहा है इधर पे कि first from the RNA it forms the DNA via reverse transcriptase, and then it incorporates itself into the host cell DNA and mixed with the DNA and makes it the viral affected DNA. Okay, so here via the transcription, the NRTIs come into the role. Okay, so I'll just let you inform on the way. Okay, so now Once the infection occur, immune cell gets activated, transcribing and translating protein for immune response. This should be the normal process, because immune cells once get activated, they start gathering around and sending the signals that something is not happening correctly, so we have to just repair it. Okay, but we will say that we know that the immune cells has already been affected by the proviral DNA being ingested into the cell. Okay, so once it starts replicating its own, but instead of this immune response replication, they will replicate the viral DNA, because the DNA is now affected, so normal DNA can't be formed. Okay, and the proteins cannot be synthesized normally, so they will give rise to the daughter virus, and then it will affect to the other cells too. Okay, so isn't that some type of sneaky? Okay, so transcribing and translating new HIV viruses infect more cells, that will lead to the immunodeficiency. So I need to understand that once this virus has been incorporated in the cells and takes over the host cells, it cannot produce immune response, because it mainly attacks the immune cells, okay, via the CD4 receptor cells. Okay, so with the GP120 protein, it enters and it transcribes its RNA to DNA via reverse transcriptase, gets inside the DNA and incorporates itself, and then replicates the virus and infect more and more cells, leading to the immunodeficiency. So leading to immunodeficiency, it increases the risk of infections and tumors, and this syndrome is known as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or also known as the AIDS. Okay, so now NRTIs, so nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, these are the structural analogs of nucleosides. So they once get phosphorylated, nucleosides plus phosphorylation gives rise to the nucleotides. Okay, so here the nucleotides are there, NRTI से phosphorylation okay, nucleotide हो जाएगा, and once this occurs, compete with natural nucleotides. Okay, and pro DNA synthesis stops. Okay, and so once the pro DNA synthesis stops, that stop the new virus being created, keep the others CD4 positive cells from the infected. But one thing we have to remember, that जो cells affected हो चुके हैं पहले से ही, so this cannot be worked in them, because once it gets affected, the nucleotides, the DNA is formed, then it can't be used, because nucleotide तो बन चुके हैं, so we can't use the NRTIs in that form. Okay, so then the other drugs will be used. Okay, so this drugs class can only slow down the progression of the disease, so it cannot be cured completely, but it can just slow down the process. Okay, so basically जब DNA बन रहा होगा, तो we will just insert a NRTI, or the nucleoside will first get phosphorylated and become nucleotide, and this nucleotide will be inserted here, and once this is inserted, the DNA replication will be stopped, and hence the viral replication will be stopped, and hence the virus growth can be controlled. But remember, it will only slow down the progression, because the affected cells are not in touch with this drug, so the drug cannot do any further for the affected cells. The cells undergoing this process, it can only stop that. Okay, so it just slow down the progression of the disease. Okay, so now some of the examples are the zidovudine, stavudine, lamivudine, didinazone, abicavir and tenofovir. Okay, and the non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors that we'll learn in the next class, the example are the efavirenz. Okay, so efavirenz and the protease inhibitors and NRTIs, these are combinedly used for the heart therapy, that is the highly active antiretroviral therapy. Okay, so zidovudine, lamivudine and efavirenz plus protease inhibitors, these four drugs are combinedly used in the heart therapy. Okay, and abicavir and tenofovir, these are the some example, and tenofovir is a nucleotide analog in itself, so it doesn't need get to be phosphorylated. Okay, so these all are the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors except the tenofovir. Tenofovir is basically already a nucleotide analog, so it can it does not need to be phosphorylated, it can directly show its action. Okay, so now NRTI is used alone in the post exposure prophylaxis exposed to HIV infected blood in past 72 hours. Okay, so if any person is affected with the HIV blood, for the prophylaxis of this treatment, the NRTIs can be used alone, and they can be also given to the children born to the HIV infected mothers. Okay, so the mother has HIV, so we can give to the child the NRTIs to stop that infection. Okay, and lamivudine inhibits DNA polymerase of the hepatitis B, so lamivudine is also used in the treatment of the hepatitis B. Okay, so some of the side effects are that NRTIs can also inhibit the host DNA polymerase. We know that it has high affinity to the reverse transcriptase inhibitor of the viral DNA enzymes, but sometimes it affects the DNA polymerase. Okay, and that will lead to the cellular inhibition of the cellular DNA polymerase, and then it will affect the host cell transcription. Okay, so it can affect the host cell too. Okay, so we have to use in the certain amount. Okay, and abicavir has fatal hypersensitivity reactions, and didenazone has the pancreatitis as side effects. Okay, and some of the common side effects are the gastrointestinal disturbances such as nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. It can also cause bone marrow suppression, and that will cause anemia and neutropenia. CNS toxicity can lead to insomnia, headaches, and peripheral neuropathy. And metabolic effects can lead to lactic acidosis, that is, lactic acid builds up that results in the decrease of the blood pH. So mainly the side effects, okay, that we have to control the dose, because it can also affect the host cell DNA polymerase that makes the DNA, and it can lead to the abnormalities in the DNA. Okay, but these are the very less chances to occur. Okay, so the common side effects that are GI disturbances, bone marrow suppression, CNS toxicity, pancreatitis for didenazone, the hypersensitivity reaction for abicavir, and metabolic acidosis. Okay, these are the some of the common side effects. So now fun mnemonic to remember all these. So there is a party going on along the uh, nuclear waste, that is represented by the nucleoside. Okay, nucleoside represents the nuclear waste. Okay, so the various drugs, there are the lambs representing lamivudine, stag represents stavudine, and the zebra representing the zidovudine. Okay, and lamivudine also treats the hepatitis B, that we have to remember. A tangled octopus representing the tenofovir, that is a nucleotide analog. Okay, uh, nucleotide analog represents the waves, the tides, representing by the octopus, that is the nucleotide analog. There also a dinosaur. Okay, it has drank so much, so representing the didenazone, that is side effects is the pancreatitis. Okay, and a bear, representing the abicavir, and it has a rash like condition representing the hypersensitivity reaction as a side effects. So some side effects via the nuclear waste, that is the lactic acidosis, the green fluid. Okay, that is lots of acid is released, that is representing the lactic acid and also causing the bone marrow suppression. And some common side effects are representing by the GI disturbances and the neurotoxicity. Okay, so I hope you understood this mnemonic, and I hope you have to remember. Okay, so a quick recap, that is NRTI as the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors are the nucleosides analogs, inhibit HIV reverse transcriptase, prevents multiplication of the virus. Okay, and the nucleosides analogs are the zidovudine, stavudine, lamivudine, didenazone, abicavir, and tenofovir. That is the single nucleotide analog is the tenofovir. Okay, and they slow down the progression of the disease. They are the antiretroviral medication used in the heart, that is highly active antiretroviral therapy, and they are also used for the post exposure prophylaxis and children born to HIV infected mothers. Okay, so here is the mind map for all the Didinazone, abicavir, stavudine, lamivudine, zidovudine, the pancreatitis, the hypersensitivity reaction, GI disturbances, lactic acidosis, bone marrow suppression, and neurotoxicity, and tenofovir, that is a nucleotide analog. Okay, so I hope you understand this mind map, and I hope आपको ये पूरा guys वीडियो समझ में होगा. अगर समझ में आया हो और अगर कोई भी डाउट हो तो गाइस प्लीज़ कमेंट सेक्शन में मुझे बताइएगा. एंड प्लीज़ डू लाइक माई वीडियो, दैट गिव्स अ बिट ऑफ मोटिवेशन एवरी टाइम. एंड प्लीज़ डू लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माई चैनल. सो अंटिल देन, stay safe, stay happy, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.